So today we're going to be learning chapter 31. It's a very special chapter here. If anyone needs, we've got more copies. And specifically the Alter Rebbe is going to teach us today about even if we don't see full progress in our Avodas Hashem and in our victory over the Yetzer Hara, over the Nefesh HaBahamis, etc., there still is room to be happy and to continue on the Avodas Hashem, the service of Hashem. And it's a question, sometimes there are people that even they have more of a natural connection to this idea that they feel imposters, or they feel even in a certain way a bit of a hypocrite when it comes to the mitzvahs, and they say, well, or I have to be 100% an observant Jew, and if I'm not an observant Jew 100%, including putting on tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam, or doing the best lighting of the menorah, so then I'm not going to do anything. I cannot feel, because imagine a person puts on tefillin, but he says, and he knows about Yiddishkeit, he knows about Judaism, and he tells himself, well, in 3 hours' time I'm going to go eat something and it's not kosher, and I know that it's not kosher, and I'm not prepared at this moment to change it. So he says, well, why should I put on tefillin then? Right, so is that true? And it's not true, of course. It's the opposite. Very good. And here the Alter Rebbe is going to teach us, how do we live with this? How can we live with such a feeling, or this like contradiction that's going on within us? And also, we're going to deal with the right response to the Hamas. This is hinted here. We'll see. Connected, if I'm not mistaken, Ariel Sharon was the first person to speak about him and his unit. Meir Dagan, who was, I think, one of the heads of the Mossad, the previous head of the Mossad. Okay, let's take a look. Let's start reading here, the beginning of chapter 31. Hanoch, would you like to start for us?
Okay. Even if by prolonging the deep concentration of the aforementioned matters for an hour or two, in order to acquire a humble spirit and a contrite heart, the individual will lapse into a profound dejection, he should not worry. For although sadness stems from the realm of Klipat Noga, is it?
Klipat Noga.
And not from that of holiness, since in regard to holiness it is written, strength and gladness are in his place, and the divine presence, Shekhinah, aids only in joy, as is in the case in the study of the law, and so on, except that if the sadness comes from reflections about celestial, namely spiritual things, it is derived from the realm of goodness that is in Noga, since Rabbi Isaac Lurie of blessed memory wrote that even worry about sins is only fitting during confession, but not during prayer, and Torah study, which should be conducted with joy, derived from the side of holiness, exclusively. Yeah. So that's one of the longest sentences I've read.
Yeah, you did a good job. The Alter Rebbe here tells us, he teaches us first of all about the importance of, as we know already, being besimcha. So a person might think to himself, if our mission is to serve Hashem with joy and in a happy mood, so why is the Alter Rebbe, and this is not last chapter, that's 2 chapters, 29. Chapter 29, the Alter Rebbe was speaking about how low we are, and reminding us that in any situation, even if we reached high levels, there's still much more to climb, and we can still do tshuva to sins that we did in the past, and that could perhaps cause a person to feel very upset about his position. So we still need to use this method of, we'll see it's not really called atzvus, here it refers to it as atzvus memili deshmaya, which is sadness because of spiritual or godly issues, not material and physical issues, because there's no room for that, as we discussed in chapter 26. And but nevertheless, when it comes to mili deshmaya, when it comes to godly issues that we are facing, such as our current position in avodas Hashem, the service of Hashem, so there's room for that type of atzvus. And soon we will see that kind of sadness, what is the right word for it in Lashon HaKodesh, because atzvut, sadness per se, is something that we don't accept at all. But we'll see that this is not the regular atzvut that we are referring to. And then the Alter Rebbe speaks about the fact that the source of the atzvus comes from klipat noga, which means we know that there is the side of kedusha, the side of holiness. There are the three klipos hatmeyos, which are the impure klipos, and that is what we refer to as the other side, the opposite side to Hashem. And then there is the klipas noiga, which is the parav klipa, the klipa that's in between holiness and impurity. And what is that type of klipa? That depends on our actions. So sadness is something, neutral. It does not necessarily mean that it's bad. It can easily drag us into bad. But if we do use the part of sadness that is in Kalipas Noga and we use it for Kedusha, then we are elevating that part of sadness. And this is what the Arizal says, right? That it has to be very limited to a specific time. It can't be every moment. Because the moment that we think about these things, it can cause us, it's like a deep wave, right? Klipat Noga, it's like the sea. And there's a lot of parts of the sea that we can swim comfortably and without any risk and any danger. And that is the elevation of the Klipat Noga. Like when a person goes, there's a great mimer that is called Mayim Rabim. Mayim Rabim Tafshin Yud Zayin, it was written 1957. And the Rebbe there speaks about the flood of Noach. And the Rebbe, I recommend everyone to learn it. It's a great mimer. It's about the waters, the tremendous waters that are tirdas haparnasa, medical tirdas, health issues. All of that is like the water that is flooding us, our life, and how to survive in that. How to enter the ark, so to speak. So that's a great, great mimer. And so that we know that the worries are referred to as water. Now there are waves that are easier to swim, like a regular day that a person goes out, and those are mundane activities that he can elevate to Kedusha. But what happens when it's a wave of sadness? That's like a wave that the current can pull us in. So that's why we have to be very aware of not swimming there all the time, so to speak, right? This is like a mashal to explain to us the power of sadness. And okay, let's continue, because here we will see the correct way to deal with terror and with Hamas as well. So Yaakov Goldman, please read for us this is the second paragraph, nevertheless.
Nevertheless, the method of subduing the Sitra Achra is on the latter's own ground, as the rabbis of blessed memory have said. From the forest itself is taken the axe wherewith to fell it, and he met his equal. With regard to this, it is written, in all sadness there is profit, profit being the joy that follows the sadness, as will be explained later.
Oh, yeah, so we have to, the quotes first of all from the Gemara in Sanhedrin and the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Sanhedrin speaks about using the axe that basically cuts down the tree, so the handle is made, the body of the axe is made out of wood itself, right? There's the metal, of course, but there's the wood. So there we use part of the thing itself in order to to get rid of the bad side, or we want to get the outcome that we want. So in the Sitra Achra, the Sitra Achra wants to use sadness to pull us down, to put us away. We will use the same sadness that he wants to catch us with. We will use it to him. We will use it to win him over. There is a pasuk in the story of Sarah Imenu and Hagar. Hagar was the mother of Ishmael, the mother of Islam. And for many years, I'll tell you honestly, this was bothering me. It says that what happened is that Sarah couldn't have children. She had a maid that was Hagar, that she was the daughter. Hagar was the daughter of Paroi, and she was prepared to get as close as she could to Avraham. Out of appreciation, she was prepared to become Sarah's maid. And Sarah, when she saw that she could not have children, she suggested to Avraham, maybe marry my maid, Hagar, and she will give you children. So Avraham does that. She gets pregnant, and then it says, Vatekal gvirta be'eineha. She starts looking at Sarah, her master, her gvirta, in a disrespectful way. Vatekal gvirta be'eineha. And then it says, what was Sarah's reaction towards that? It says, Vata'aneha Sarah, vativrach mipaneha. Sarah Imenu, traumatized her, tortured her, and that caused Hagar to run away. And for many years I couldn't understand, why does Sarah Imenu have to behave in such a way? You can say, okay, teach her a lesson, explain to her that she shouldn't behave like this, punish her. You know what, the Torah always, there's no other place besides, I think, Yom Kippur, where it says the word of inui. But the Torah never uses the terms of inui, not when it speaks about the Egyptians. Hashem did not want to ma'aneh the Egyptians, torture the Egyptians. Not when we fought against Midian, not when we fought against Sichon and Og Melech HaBashan, but before we entered Eretz Yisrael. Why does the Torah use this term Vata'aneh HaSarah? Or why did Sarah Imenu behave in such an inhumane way?
Non-Jewish way.
A non-Jewish way. That's a non-Jewish way, that's the truth. And Sarah Imenu is our first Yiddish Amama. And the answer is simple. Sarah Imenu knew who she is fighting with. She knew that the only way to fight terror is with terror itself. Minei ubei l'shada b'narga. You've got to use the tool and the language of your enemy in order to win him. And if we take a look at what was Hagar doing. Hagar was doing the most disrespectful thing. Sarah Imenu was the one to bring her into the house. Not only to bring her into the house, but allow her to marry Avraham. Have a bit of respect. Have a bit of respect to yourself. Why are you trying to rise up against your own master that brought you here? That is terror. That's not a conventional way of behaving. And Sarah Imenu knew that the only answer to that is with is in the same way, the same method with terror.
So based on what you're explaining, why would Avraham remarry her?
Because Avraham was a pure, kind person. Avraham had no limits that stopped him. According to Chassidus, the nature of Avraham was pure chesed. Chesed cannot say the word no. Avraham asked Hashem, please Hashem, let Yishmael...
When he's arguing for Saddam.
And again, yes, but he did it. He wants the good and the benefit of the people over there. He was a kind man. He didn't want anyone
to... But he couldn't recognize lack of goodness.
Exactly.
So that's a big defect.
Exactly. Yes, and there are many people. And if you want to know how to feel the unity with people that perhaps don't share your opinion about getting rid of Hamas,
but he said the way he loves.
Yes. Sorry?
He did it nicely.
He did it very nicely, and it was because of a fight between the shepherds. It wasn't directly linked to him.
It is a kind of no.
It is a kind of no, yeah. So it could be that there is also that side of things, but generally speaking, we see it so many times, the favor, the way that Avram looked at Yishmael, his son, and you could see that he is what we call a wilde chaya, but he still said that, Lu Yishmael yicheh lefanecha, if it's up to me, Hashem, please let Yishmael be my heir and my successor, that's good enough for me. And that teaches us a lot about people that perhaps don't share our same opinion. Jews that don't share our same opinion. And I know personally a lot of them. I can't say sorry, not a lot. But I do know quite a few people that want a ceasefire, for example. And you say, how do you want a ceasefire? And true, it does not make sense. But this person, Be'emet, he's a good person. And he believes in it. They are good people. But they don't know how to say no. And that's part of their nature.
But appeasement is evil disguised as goodness.
That's if you take a very good look at it. But if you ask a person that doesn't know how to use the word no, he has no real limits, so he will say that you are wrong. And that is to melamed zchut on all of those people that are Jews, after all. They are part of our nation. When we say that Am Yisrael is one, we include them as well.
But the exception would be if you have a child or a relative hostage.
Right.
Those you can't.
And also with that, that's when it becomes complicated, because those people, they are the first ones that they want a ceasefire. They don't want us to execute the mechablim, even though if you would ask a military person or person that understands, that speaks Arabic properly, not only the words but the culture, they might say that it doesn't make a difference to them. That the shahidim, they want to become shahidim. That's the biggest. So again, but here this is to say that everyone has a nefesh. Now this is what we've been learning in Tanya, that there's a lot behind what we see. The naked eye sees what you say, how you react, how you behave. It doesn't see the nefesh, what's going on within the person. And this sometimes is a big a factor that's what generates our behavior and our reactions. If you see a person protesting for a ceasefire, you've got to say, okay, we've got to figure out what kind of nefesh you have. And this is to make it clear, this is not to say that we agree with what he wants. We can tell him, you are a Yid, but you are going against the halacha. The halacha has clear decisions what should be done in these cases. Certain people are considered to be what's called a rodef. A rodef is someone that is chasing someone else to kill him. So you're allowed to kill the person that is trying to kill you. And the basic example for that in the halacha, it's a very sad case. But here this is even more of a, we're getting mamish off topic, but it's a very interesting topic. What happens if there's a woman that is about to give birth, but the baby is putting her life in danger? And then the doctors say, listen, it's or the mother or the child. What do you do in that case?
You serve the child if he's not yet born.
Sorry?
You serve the mother if the child is not yet born.
Right, if the child is not yet...
if the head is coming out, you serve the child.
Right, so it becomes complicated because it depends in what situation. Usually in that case, it's already okay. Depends, but there's a way. The reason why. So the basic halacha is that you save the mother and you don't save the child. Why? Because the child has the din of a roidef. He's chasing the mother, trying to kill her. You know, we can't say these words, but sometimes this is what's happening around us, right? Or there's another case. What happens if there's an entire, and this is where sometimes it's a bit different. There's a country that comes and he lays siege on a certain city, a Jewish city, and they say, bring us out 10 people and we will execute them, and if not, the whole town will go, right? And these are questions. There's a whole sefer that was written by a big rabbi because of questions that happened in the Holocaust. Similar questions, similar situations. What are we allowed to do? What we aren't allowed to do? So we got way off topic. Let's get back to the subject. And here we see...
There will be a ceasefire.
Yes.
We will call it a pause. They will call it a truce.
And the question is, what will be after that? How will they resume from that? That's it. We can do our part, and our part is learning, Be'ezrat Hashem, the soldiers, the leaders, to make the right decisions. So here we learn Mine Ube L'Shade Bernarga, which means that from the forest itself and from the wood itself, we use it in order to strike down a tree. And this is how we're using the method of the Yetzer Hara himself. Sadness, not for his benefit, but in order to gain more strength, more power to the Yetzer Tov. And this is the basic law of judo, right? That I think it's judo, right, or karate. One of those that you use the power and the energy of your opponent in order for you to win. Let's continue. Let's see. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to speak about the term of the sadness. Do we call it sadness or not? Yaakov Baruch, please read for us. This is the third paragraph.
In truth, however, a contrite heart and the bitterness of the soul, because of its remoteness from the light of the divine countenance and its being clothed in the Sitra Achra, are not called the tzvut, dejection, in the sacred one. For a tzvut implies that the heart is dull like a stone and devoid of vitality. But in the case of merirut, bitterness, and the broken heart, the contrary is surely true. There is virtually in the heart of fermenting agitation and bitterness, except that this vitality stems from the attribute of the holy Gvurot, severity, whereas joy comes from the attribute of Hasadim, kindness, for the heart is comprised of them both. Well, that answers a question that I had.
Yes.
This sadness, the one is supposed to have at certain times.
Right.
How does one switch it off when the time is over?
It's over.
And because it's not sadness the way we understand it, it's merirut, which is a different concept.
Right. Merirut, which is bitterness. All right. And this happens every time. We'll see the Alter Rebbe is going to give us the times and the dates to do this cheshbon hanefesh. And so sometimes people used to do it as tikkun chatzos. What is tikkun chatzos? You wake up midnight, and in those days they used to go to sleep when it's dark because there was no electricity. So at 4:30, 5 o'clock, that's it. It was bedtime. They woke up 12 in the morning, 12 at night, midnight, and they started off with tikkun chatzos, which is saying the vidui, saying the al-chet, we are sorry for our sins, etc., etc. And then, once you're finished with that, it says you should continue learning Torah besimcha, with happiness and with joy. How can a person change his mood from sadness and straight into simcha? So it depends it depends on the perhaps it's the way we think of sadness. There's sadness, and we all know it. There's sadness that leads to action, and there's sadness that pulls us down, that makes us heavy. And that is the difference between bitterness. Bitterness is a person he's sad because of what happened, but he wants to change the situation. It's bothering him. It's sadness that bothers him, that is a call to action to change the situation. You know, it's like we are, it's like that. So there's, with what happened on the 7th of October, so you could be sad and you could be on the border of giving up because of the situation.
Would you call it tzvut or merirut?
What?
7 October.
7 of October. So there are two sides to it. The beginning is the atzvut, and there's some, but then of course right afterwards we woke up to change the whole situation. And there, on the contrary, you see how this method of being upset for something like this happening causes you to get to gain so much inner power and strength to fight them back. And that is why a lot of the times, right, they say that to do such an operation out of the blue, the 6th of October, the 5th of October, a half a year ago, they wouldn't be able to do it. Not on this scale, at least. They would be able to deal like they did in the past with another round, what is called. But to really defeat Hamas, that hopefully they will complete that mission, that is something that it's not so sure that they could have done. And why? Because you have to have the feeling of merirut. Right? Not to chas v'shalom justify what happened, chas v'shalom, chas v'chalila, but after it happened. And this is what we'll see. This is when a person should pick the times that he should use the tool of bitterness. It's when he's already a bit down. When a person is already a bit upset about something that happened to him, the Alter Rebbe says, we'll see it in the next paragraph, that is when you should use this tool of merirut.
So atzvut is passivity, and merirut is activity.
Yeah, femod. That's another good way to define it. Person that atzvut, and he's passive, he's not doing anything about it, so it's just going to lead him more and more into this wave, and into this ma'arbolet of atzvut, and it's hard to get out of it. But merirut requires action to change the situation, and that is why not only that a person can change his mood in one moment, but it helps his mood. So it depends on, and that's why, by the way, it says, why do we say Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu, Hashem forgive us for our sins. And then we finalize, we say, Baruch atah Hashem, chanun hamarbeh lisloach. We are saying that you are blessed, Hashem, because you are definitely going to forgive us. And that is the feeling that a person should have after he does teshuvah. Not to doubt his teshuvah, was my teshuvah good, did Hashem accept it, did he not? We have a halacha, and Hashem acts according to the halacha, that if a person says he's sorry for 3 times, then you should forgive him. And if you don't forgive him, so then the problem is with the person, with the other person. But if you are sincere about your teshuvah, and this is important, of course, to be sincere, we definitely know that Hashem forgave us, and now, why is there reason to be sad? On the contrary, Hashem already forgave us. So we should be happy. Let's continue the fourth paragraph. Daniel. Thus.
Yeah. Thus, it is sometimes necessary to awaken the attribute of holy gvurot in order to ameliorate the stern judgment arising from the animal soul and evil nature when triumphing. Heaven protect over man. For the stern judgments can be sweetened only at their source. Therefore, the rabbis of blessed memory said that a person should always excite the good nature. That is, when he perceives in his soul that he is in need of it. But for propitious time, which is the time specifically fitting for the majority of people, is when one is in any case troubled by mundane worries, or simply without apparent cause. Then is the appropriate time to transform the sadness by becoming one of those masters of account mentioned earlier, and to act on the counsel of the rabbis, constantly to excite and so on, as has been mentioned above. Thereby will he rid himself of the dejection of occasioned by mundane affairs.
Yes, Shemad.
What does constantly to excite mean?
Let me see. There's a quotation from Chazal: "Eilam yargiz adam yetzer tov al yetzer hara." A person should, the way that he translates it here, constantly to excite. Sometimes when you cause a bit of a ferribble, you cause a bit of provoke the yetzer hara. This sometimes can help us on our long-term mission. So here we see, of course, that first of all we have to make sure that it's done within a specific time frame, not every single day, and not when a person's in a good mood. So use that for kedusha. Don't try and change the mood. This is something that the Rebbe said often to people that were looking for their specific mission in life, or to change their missions in life. The Rebbe was very, very much against changing occupations, changing positions, even if it was a professor learning in the university or person, there was a group of French students that they came very close to the Rebbe, and they were miskarev through Reb Mullah Azimov. He was the shaliach to France, very, very special, strong chassid with a deep connection to the Rebbe. Until this very day, a lot of French people, they say Rabbi Mullah. Mamish, they are very much connected to him. So it was a bunch of students that they learned. Some of them learned in the Sorbonne, some of them learned in other universities, and they were getting closer to Yiddishkeit, learning Tanya, learning Hasidus, and then they decided to do to fly to the Rebbe, and they all had the same question together: should they leave their current positions? They were all students in university. And they knew that, this is what Rabbi Mullah was telling them, that the Rebbe is against university, against learning secular studies, and they wanted to go into Kedusha. So they were waiting for an answer from the Rebbe. Yes, change your occupation, go into yeshiva, study in yeshiva, and then study in kollel, etc. The Rebbe said no. The Rebbe said, don't leave your current studies. You should, within that, you should be connected to Kedusha. There was a person that came to the Bet Chabad here, I think it was like a half a year ago, and he has a radio show, and he has that radio show because he was then a student, and he told us a story himself. He thought the Rebbe would tell him change his studies, and the Rebbe said no, and that's why, and he has a radio show, and there he puts in Kedusha, he puts in Divrei Torah. So here the Alter Rebbe says, don't change your mood. If you are in a positive mindset now, use that for Kedusha. Don't fight that in order to regain strength. It doesn't make sense, right? But then if a person is anyways for some reason a bit upset, then we should use that opportunity to become bitter. Not sad, to become bitter, and from that we'll get the chizuk. We'll strengthen our avodas Hashem, the service of Hashem.
So how are we defining bitter?
I would say each one can define it in different terms, right? Yaakov Meir, you said it's action. It's about active, not passive. It's about being upset of the situation, a call to action, not accepting what's happening. That's it. A person that's sad, he is upset of what's happening, but he accepts it. He accepts it. He doesn't fight it. He's sad because that he sees that this is reality, this is a fact. A person that is bitter
Holds a grudge.
Sorry?
Holds a grudge.
What does that mean?
Holding a grudge is like two families fight for 100 years. They don't, at some point, because they're holding, some guy did something.
It's just a lingering
It's
anger.
lingering, yeah.
Right. Right. So that's to speak about sadness, right? Well, that's an example for bitterness.
Bitter.
Okay. So it's an ongoing, but I don't know if it's a positive side of the bitterness.
Right, right.
But so there's always, we spoke about that sometimes the Yetzer Hara comes dressed up as a chassid or as a tzaddik. Comes and he wants to tell a person to be holy, to increase in Yiddishkeit.
A deceiver.
A deceiver. But how do you know that he's a deceiver? He comes with a shtreimel, he comes with a long beard. He says, don't go to eat breakfast today.
Shabbatized food.
Right, so you can stay, learn, daven more, increase in your learning. But he has his real intention is to deceive us. But how do you know that he's a deceiver? So the Rebbe said you've always got to look at the end result. Does that lead to hama'asehu ha'ikar, to the action of the mitzvahs or not? So sometimes we won't be able to tell every time that he's a deceiver. But if a person, right, if it's gonna put a person off the maaseh, practicing the mitzvahs, what Hashem tachlis wants, so it's not worth it. You can be the biggest tzaddik, you can be learning all day, but what about the mitzvahs? What about your obligations? Sometimes obligations are to go and to have a breakfast, yes. So you've got to see on the end result what's the bottom line? What does he really want from me? He can come and say you've got to take this path. But yeah, and the Rebbe was very much to sticking to the rules and to a seder. There was once a yeshiva bocher that also, and that's another example that he says he's a night bird. What's the word? There's a night owl. Thank you. Tzipor Laila. That's what they say in Hebrew.
You know the word?
And he told the Rebbe he wants to learn all night. He wants his seder. He'll have a private seder. All the yeshiva they learn from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. He will start his day at 8 at night, and he will learn until 8 in the morning. And he says honestly, and there are these people that they function much better during nighttime, owls, right? So he said, and he's sure that this path in Avodas Hashem will ya'aleh oto mala mala, that will lift him up high high. So the Rebbe took that word, he erased ya'aleh oto mala mala, which means it will upgrade him, and he said ze derech yorid oto lamata mata. On the contrary, this is a path that will. And why is that? He says, yeah, there's a power to the rules. There's a power to rules. The rules themselves, the maaseh, that's powerful. There was, I actually had a discussion with someone about the difference. We spoke about Avraham and Yitzchak. So Avraham did not know the word no. Yitzchak did not know the word yes. Yitzchak was gevura, harsh. What does that mean? Gevura says if you deserve it, you get it. If you don't deserve it, there's no such a thing, no such a concept as giving a person just because he wants it, or because I believe in him, or because I think he would use it for the good. No. If you deserve it, you get it. If not, you don't get it. That is Yitzchak, a very tough personality.
But he said yes to Esau. He gave him
the blessings. The blessings that has to do. Again, it's a good question. We won't see this accurate path all the time, but there's a reason to that. Let's put that aside for one moment. Yitzchak himself, his personality was gevura. Gevura is no. Why do we tell children no?
It's for the best interest.
What do you mean by the best interest?
You don't put your finger in the socket.
Okay, so you don't want the child to feel to be harmed, right? So, but what about an utopic world or a perfect world? Okay, that there aren't no dangers. Why do you educate kids and you tell them don't do this? This is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do, because you want him to grow up and to be successful in life. But I've got an argument. First of all, in an utopic world where there aren't any dangers and food is always guaranteed, is there still room to educate a child and to tell him, you have to wake up at this time, you cannot do this, you cannot do that? Or what about parents, and this is fashion today. There are parents that say, I don't tell my child no.
And they're all psychologists.
There was an Israeli television show that they just recently had, like, several parents showing their education of the children. I think we spoke about it. There's one Chabad family that also they went, and they won. The Chabad family won. They were like they were voted in to be the best educators. They were the Frum family of the group. And there was one parent there, two parents, that they said, we don't tell our child no. They gave them money, they do experiments, so they give a child money to go buy a dinner. So the children rushed back and they bought candy for dinner. So they told the parents, how can you allow this? And they said, it's his choice, right? They were invited to a restaurant to see how the kids behave. The kid was making such a balagan, such a mess, and the parents did not say no. This is a certain, and he will discover life himself. Why do I need to give him rules? So you're right. The one reason is because we want to make sure that he stays away from danger. But it's not only that. No itself, the word no, is holy for its own self, for its own sake. It gives meaning to life. When you know what no is, so then yes becomes something special, something holy, something meaningful. That is the true meaning of educating a child. It's giving him meaning and purpose in life. You're right, it's also for the dangers. But it's not only if it's a perfect world, yes, I still have rules. That's why the Torah is detailed. And not only that, that's why people today are looking for a meaning. And you would be shocked, but some people are, they like Muslims. Why did I like Muslims? Because you have to pray 5 times a day, because you're not allowed to drink alcohol. And that's why people that aren't involved in that, so they are involved in climate change. Why? Because if you're not allowed to use fuel, or if you at least say that, so it gives meaning to life. There's a drive, there's a mission. People are looking for meaning. And this is the
it also requires a skill to have judgment.
And you have to have judgment, and that's why
distinctions between things.
And that's why they are very judgmental. That's why they are against Israel, for example, and that's why they are against other people driving cars. For sure, they are very judgmental, because that's what brings purpose to life. So, yes, Mordechai.
Yeah. Just a couple of reflections. Since the mid-1960s, the world as a whole has abandoned a sense of ethical and moral and a moral framework as we're given in Torah, and they've replaced it with relativism, and they've replaced it with humanism, and we've seen now since around 1962 to where we are in 2023, how the world as a whole has shifted their focus and their change. And we, as opposed to, say, Israeli society, even the society that's in Tel Aviv, that is very secular, still holds on to this moral and ethical framework that we've all been taught since we've been children.
Right. Very, very much so. There is a small change because of what's happening. This is, first of all, we see the real intentions behind all kinds of activists. What do they really mean? And second of all, for us, and there's been many people that have been saying yes all the past 20 years. Israelis, Jews, right, in the US, Jews here in Israel that work in certain companies, etc. And they say yes to everything, which means they aren't using their own Jewish unique identity. And you know, sometimes you can understand why. Why should we cause a separation? Separation and division is not nice. It's not nice, but it brings purpose. That is why Sarah Menu is so demanding of Avram to chase away Yishmael. Because Yitzchak has to focus on his mission. It's uncomfortable, but everything's, I mean, life is uncomfortable, you know. You've got, there's purpose, there's mission. And perhaps this is also another reason that the Alter Rebbe also tells us that we should only use this method only in very specific times, very specific days. And today the Rebbe speaks about it perhaps once a month, if a person can tolerate it, and he sees what is the sign to see if it's bringing purpose, if your actions are good actions. If the ma'aseh afterwards, if you can learn Torah with a smile on your face, if you can't, so then it's not worth it. That's fast. They used to fast in the old days. They used to fast a lot. And today, even in the times of the Alter Rebbe says no, instead of fasting, because what will fasting cause? The person is tired, the person is hungry, he has no energy, so he's not going to learn. So the Ma'aseh Hu'ikar, the Yetzer Hara comes with you with a strimel and with a long beard, and he tells you you've got to fast every Monday and Thursday, and this is the way to purify, and it truly is, because you're not paying attention to your body. You're becoming more spiritual. Becoming more spiritual, but you're not becoming more holy. It's two separate things.
You're not becoming more,
right?
You're not becoming more Jewish.
And you're not becoming more Jewish. Yeah, because Jewish is that's the way of, that's holiness. Holiness is not only spirituality. Holiness is when a person eats a meal on Shabbos. That is also holiness, right? There's the Buddhas that they try and, stay away from everything physical because that seems closest to holiness. And it is, right? The person that's more spiritual, he easily can connect also to Kedusha, but it's not the same definition. It's not the same real meaning. So let's continue a bit more. Okay, so let's see here, following. Fran, would you like to read for us? This is the last paragraph here on the first page.
Yeah, following this, he will attain true joy when he will reflect in his heart and gain a double measure of comfort. In view of what has been said above in truth, saying to himself, truly and without doubt I am far removed from God, and I am abominable and loathsome. If all this is myself alone, that is to say, the body is its vivifying soul. Yet there is within me a veritable part of God which is found even in the most worthless of worthless. Namely, the divine soul with a spark of veritable godliness which is clothed in it and animated, except that it is, as it were, a state of exile. Therefore, on the contrary, the further I am separated from God and the more contemptible and loathsome, the deeply in exile is my divine soul, and more greatly is she to be pitied. Therefore I shall make it my whole aim and design to extricate her and liberate her from this exile, in order to restore her to her father's house as in her youth, before she was clothed in my body, when she was absorbed in the blessed light and completely united with him. Now she will again be thus absorbed and united with him, may he be blessed. If I will bend my whole aim towards the Torah and the commandments, to clothe therein all her 10 faculties as mentioned above, especially in the precept of prayer, to cry unto the Lord in the distress of exile in my despicable body, to liberate her from her prison, that she may attach herself to him, lest we hear.
Thank you. So here we see, and we'll see soon, we'll end with the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So the Alter Rebbe teaches us that we've got to make a bit of a separation between the two. We've got the soul, which is pure, which is holy, and we've got the body. And in our life, we are able to make the separation between the two. And also when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, we should also make the separation between the two, which means, yes, the body is an unpure vessel, but the soul is pure. And that's why I'm happy because of my soul, and I continue to do mitzvahs with my soul. Of course, using the body, but the body itself sometimes stays as something that's not completely pure. And how do we know that we live with this? The first story of Am Yisrael is the Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? So there we already see the same thing happened. It says that when Am Yisrael, when they left Egypt, so there were a few spies, right? There were a few spies that joined them as well. And then it says that Am Yisrael, after 3 days, did not return, so the spies rushed back to Paroi, telling Paroi, Ki barach ha'am. The Jewish people, barach, they escaped. What do you mean escaped? Paroi was begging us to leave. He gave us permission to leave. Why does the Torah use the term Ki barach ha'am, the Am escaped? So, according to Pshuta Shemikra, maybe we can explain it, but here the Alter Rebbe speaks about the spiritual level of this idea. Alter Rebbe says that we left Egypt. Egypt is the 49 gates of Tumah, impurity. But we left Egypt, and it's not that in one moment we became pure people completely. Ki barach ha'am, we were running away from ourselves, from the 49 levels of Tumah that are sometimes within us. And that's the 49 days until they came to... So this is an answer to what we started off at the beginning, when a person says, can he do this mitzvah, or does he feel that it's inappropriate? I know my real situation. I know really where I am. Can I go and put on tefillin? Can I go and I can do a hidur mitzvah? Go and daven in the kaisel today? So the answer is yes, because these are two different dimensions. There's the dimension of the body, which sometimes the body, unfortunately, pulls us down. And we're not going to change it so fast. We are always constantly escaping from the bad that's within us. Ki baracham, the same as Am Yisrael from Egypt, they did not say, listen, it's all that you give us a state, or we stay refugees. Right? There's something in between. So it's a process that we are marching for 40 years to get to our state. So yeshar koach. This is a very interesting chapter, and next week, Bezrat Hashem, we're gonna learn chapter Lamed Beis Leiv, the heart of the Tanya, which is all about Ahavas Yisrael.